Learning outcomes. After studying this module, you shall be able to know India's trade performance, identify how the direction and pattern of trade is changing, analyze gain from trade through the net barter terms of trade. India as a developing nation is abounded in land and labor but scarce in capital. That is why for a long period of time, India is much better off in the production of labor intensive goods than capital intensive goods. According to the trade theories, India exports labor intensive goods and imports capital intensive goods. Till 1990, more or less, India remained as a closed economy with complex system of licensing and more of NTBs, that is non-tariff than tariffs. In mid-1980s, export began to grow slowly because of the adaptation of the modern technologies in the industrial sector. But the growth of export was slower than the growth in imports. That is why the BOP, or the balance of payment, did not improve though the exports were growing. The situation which emerged in the 1980s put pressure on the government to take initiative for economic reforms in 1991. This was the time when tariff protection was relaxed, import licensing was abolished. At that time, the major export partners of India were OECD and the OPEC countries. US, Japan and Germany were the major ones. Now, China had emerged as a major trading partner of India. India also wanted to expand its trade with the ASEAN and the European Union. So it is trying to have trade agreements with them. India's new foreign trade policy 2015-2020, which was announced on 1st of April 2015, focuses on the support of manufacturing and the service sector, stressing also on the ease of doing business. This module will give us information about the trade performance, direction and pattern of trade of India. India's trade performance. Trade in goods. In 2014, according to the World Factbook country comparison, India gained 19th position among the leading exporters of the world. Its merchandise export on FOB basis, which was free on board, was $329 billion. Before economic reforms in 1991, India was considered to be a closed economy with 200% of average tariff and extensive NTBs, which are non-tariff barriers on imports. FDI and FIIs were highly restricted. After economic and financial liberalization took place in the 90s, India has become more liberal towards trade. This section analyzes the trade performance of India since 1970. If we look at India's foreign trade, which is in US dollars and US million dollars, which is given in table, we find that in the year 70-71, the exports were 2031.3, imports 2162.3, a trade balance of -131. In 75-76, the exports were 4648.7, imports 6063.7, trade balance a negative of 1415. In 80-81, the exports were 8484.7, the imports 15866.5 and the trade balance -7381.8. In 85-86, exports were 8904.5, imports 16066.9 and trade balance a -7162.4. In 1991, exports were 18145.2, imports 24072.5 and the trade balance a negative of -5927.3. In 95-96, exports were 31794.9, imports 36675.3 and a trade balance of -4880.4. In 2000-2001, exports were 44560.3, imports 50536.5 and a trade balance of -5976.2. In 2005-06, the exports were 103,090.5 and imports 149,165.7 and a trade balance of minus 46,075.2. In 2010-11, the exports were 251136.2, imports 369769.1, and a trade balance of minus 118632.9. In 11-12, the exports were 305963.9, the imports 489319.5, and trade balance of a minus 183355.6. In 12-13, exports were 300400.7, imports 490736.7, and a trade balance of negative 190336. In 13-14, the exports were 314415.7, and the imports 450213.7, and the trade balance a minus 135798. The source of this table is from the RBI handbook. Table shows the trade performance of India since 1970. Though the trade value of India is quite low up till 2000-2001, after that India has improved a lot both in exports and imports. Trade balance for each chosen years is negative and increased after 2000-2001, which indicates that the gap between the export and import has widened after 2000-2001. In 13-14, the gap between export and import was reduced a bit, but the trade balance in 12-13 was minus $190,336 million, and in 13-14 it was minus $135,798 million. Now, if we look at the share of oil and non-oil exports in India's exports in 70-71, which is given by the figure where it shows the share of oil and non-oil exports, we find that the non-oil export was 99.4. And if we look at the same in 2013 and 14, we find that the share of non-oil export was 79.9. And if we look at the share of oil and non-oil export in India's export in 1970-71, non-oil export was 91.7. And if we look at the share of oil and non-oil exports in India's export in 13-14, the non-oil export was 63.4. So what it shows, figure 1 and 2 show that the share of oil and non-oil export in the year 70-71 and 2013-14, the share of oil export from India in total export has increased from 0.6% in 70-71 to 20.1% in 13-14, whereas the share of non-oil export has reduced from 99.4% to 79.9% respectively for the same period. Figure 3 and 4 represent the share of oil and non-oil import in the year 70-71 and 2013-14. The share of non-oil import in the total import by India has reduced from 91.7% in 70-71 to 63.4% in 13-14. On the other hand, the share of oil import has increased from 8.3% to 36.6% respectively. The share of oil trade in the total trade of India is high, and it plays a significant role in our trade performance. Trade in services. Trade in service, according to World Bank data, which has been shown in figure 5, both export and import in service has increased enormously from 1990. Imports has increased from $281.5 million in 1990 to $124,309 million in 2010. There was a slight downfall in the imports of services in the year 2009. This may be due to financial crisis which emerged during 2008-9. Exports in services has also increased from $326.4 million in 1990 to $82694 million in 2010. It was highest in 2008, after which it has declined. So this has been indicated in figure 5, where we have a graph showing the trade in services. The source, it has been compiled from the World Bank data. India's direction of trade. Direction of trade basically means the trading partners of a country with whom the country trades with. In this section, we will be analyzing who are the trading partners of India, what are their shares in total trade. This section has been divided into two parts. First, we will analyze the direction of trade in commodity. We first look at direction of exports, and under exports we look at the block-wise. Now, figure 6, which is indicated, shows the share of bloc countries in India's total exports for the selected years. OECD countries and Eastern Europe countries' share has declined since 1991. In 1991, the share of OECD countries were 56.48% and 17.87% for Eastern European countries. But in 2011-12, it has reduced to 33.89% and 1.06% respectively, though it has slightly improved in the years 2012-13. The share of OPEC and developing countries has increased from 5.62% to 20.91% and 17.08% to 41.53% respectively for the year 1991 and 2012-13. This shows that the direction of export of India has shifted from OECD and Eastern European countries toward OPEC and developing countries. This is again indicated in the figure. Now, here you have the figure 6, which shows the share in total exports. All this has been compiled from the RBI handbook. Now, let us look at country wise. Figure 7 shows the share of top 10 partners in India's export for the selected years. The share of UAE has increased from 2.42% in 1991 to 12.09% in 2012-13, though it is reduced in comparison with the year 2010-11. USA used to be one of the largest export partner to India in the year 1991 with a share of 14.73%. Its share is reduced to 12.02% in 2012-13, which again has slightly increased from the year 2010-11. The share of Netherlands, Saudi Arabia, Singapore and China has increased since 1991. UK, Germany, Japan share has declined from 1991 to 2012-13. Russia's share at 16.14% was the highest in India's export in the year 1991, has reduced to 0.78% in 2012-13. This analysis gives an insight of how the direction of India's export has evolved since 1991, and this is also indicated in figure 7, which shows us the share of top 10 exporting countries. Again, the source is from the RBI handbook. Now we look at direction of imports. Here again we look at block-wise. Figure 8 shows the share of major group of countries in India's total import for the selected years. The direction of imports of India as per this figure has changed since 1990-91. Earlier in 1991, the share of OECD was around 57.21%, which is reduced to 27.82% in 12-13. Similarly, the share of Eastern European countries has reduced from 7.82% to 1.79%, whereas OPEC countries' share has increased from 16.3% to 38.58% due to huge demand for crude oil. Though the share of OPEC countries was low in 2000-2001, the share of developing countries has increased from 18.65% in 1991 to 31.33% in 2012-13. This shows that the direction of imports has shifted from OECD and Eastern European countries to OPEC and the developing countries. This is again indicated in figure 8, which shows us the share in total imports. The source is again from an RBI handbook. Now let us look at country wise. Russia, Japan, USA, Belgium and UK were among the top importing partners of India in 1991. The share of all these top importing partners has reduced from 1991 to 2012-13. Russia's share is reduced from 5.9% to 0.83%. Japan's share has shrunk from 7.51% to just 2.55%. USA's share in 1991 was 12.4% and is reduced to 4.94% in 12-13. UK and Belgium share in 1991 was 6.7% and 6.29% has also reduced to 1.33% and 2.05% respectively. On the other hand, countries like China and Switzerland, who did not figure in the list of top importing countries in 1991, but in 12-13 has emerged as one of the top importing partners of India. China's share in 1991 was just 0.17%, but has substantially increased to 18.07% in 12-13. Switzerland import share was 1.11% in 1991, and now it is 6.07% in 12-13. UAE and South Korea share in total import by India has increased a lot. UAE share in 1991 was 4.4%, and in 12-13 it is 7.82%. South Korea's share has increased from 2.02% in 1991 to 4.47% in 12-13. This shows the direction of imports has changed a lot after liberalization, which again has been indicated in figure 9, which indicates the share of top 10 importing partners, and again this has been compiled from the RBI handbook. Now we look at direction of trade and services. First, the direction of exports. Figure 10 to 11 shows the direction of exports and services in the year 2000 and 2010. USA has been the biggest exporting partner in services with share equal to 12.8% in 2000 and 12.07% in 2010. Germany had a share of 3.3% in 2000. It has increased to 4.07% in 2010. Singapore's share has also increased from 3.3% in 2000 to 3.95% in 2010. On the other hand, the share of UK, Japan, France has reduced from the year 2000 to 2010. This gives an insight about how the direction of export and service has changed since 2000. Figure 10 indicates the share of top exporting partners in India's export in services in 2000. The share of top exporting partners, which is again in 2010, which has been indicated in figure 11. All this has been compiled from the World Bank data. Direction of trade and import. USA has been the biggest importer of services from India, but its share has declined from 15.5% in 2000 to 10.6% in 2010. Except Singapore, all the other top importing partners' share in services has declined since 2000. Singapore's share has increased from 1.4% in 2000 to 1.7% in 2010. This shows the direction of import and services are now diverting towards countries other than USA, UK, Germany, France, Netherlands, Japan and Italy. Figures 12 and 13 show us the share of top importing partners in India, import and services from 2000 and 2010. Again, this has been compiled from the World Bank data. India's pattern of trade. The movement of goods and services across borders is known as international trade, and the study of these goods and services is known as pattern of international trade. To analyze India's pattern of trade, this section has been segregated into two parts. First shows the pattern of commodity trade, and the second shows the pattern of trade in services. So when we are looking at India's pattern of trade in goods, we first look at pattern of commodity export. Figure 14 shows India's pattern of trade in export for the selected years. By seeing this figure, we get an idea what is India's pattern of trade in export and how has it been changing. Manufacturing good has the highest share in the exporting product, but its share in total export has declined. In 1991, the share was 71.6%. In 12-13, it has reduced to 61.1%. Similarly, the share of primary products has also decreased from 23.8 to 15.4% respectively, though its share is improved after 2010-11. The expected reason for decline in export share of manufacturing goods and primary goods is that India's commodities are not competent enough to face the world market as they are high in prices and low in quality. Share of petroleum products which are exported by India to other countries has substantially increased from 2.9% in 1991 to 20.1% in 2012-13. Increase in India's share in petroleum export can be seen as a rise in the world demand for petroleum products in the recent past. This gives an idea that how has India's pattern of trade changed towards petroleum products rather than manufacturing or primary products. This has been indicated in figure 14, which shows us the product share in total exports. Again, this has been compiled from the RBI handbook. We then look at primary products. As the figure 15 shows that the share of primary product has declined since 1991 in India's export. The following figure shows the items accounting for downfall. The share of export of agriculture and allied products within the primary products has declined from 77.6% in 1991 to 62.4% in 2005-06. But if we look at the figures in 2010-11, 11-12 and 12-13, it shows that the share of agriculture and allied products within the primary product has increased to 73.7%, 81.6% and 88.0% respectively. On the other hand, with primary goods export, the share of ores and minerals has declined from 22.4 in 1991 to 12% in 2012-13, though the share was 37.6% and 26.3% in 2005-06 and 2010-11 respectively. Now, if we look at the share of agriculture and allied ores and mineral products in primary product exports, which has been indicated in figure 15, the source has again been the RBI handbook. Let's look at manufacturing goods. Within the manufacturing goods exports, the engineering goods has the highest share. Engineering goods share has increased from 17.3% in 1991 to 35.5% in 12-13. The share of chemicals and other related products has increased from 13.3% in 1991 to 21.7% in 12-13. The share of export of gems and jewelries within the manufacturing goods export has also increased slightly from 22.5 to 23.7. But the share of leather products and handicrafts except carpets has declined. The major loss is to the textile industry, as the share of textile products within manufacturing goods has declined from 33.4% in 1991 to just 14.9% in 12-13. So the pattern of India's export in manufacturing goods has shown inclination towards chemical and engineering goods from textile and leather products. If we look at figure 16, it shows the share of various manufacturing goods within the manufacturing exports. The source is again from the RBI handbook. Now let us look at pattern of commodity import. Figure 17 shows the share of various groups of commodities in India's import. India, as the second largest nation in terms of population, it has a huge demand to petroleum and crude oil products. That's why the share of these commodities in total imports has increased from 25% in 1991 to 34.1% in 12-13. Petroleum and crude oil products has the highest share in India's import. The share of consumption goods has slightly increased in 1991, but that of capital goods has declined from 24.2 in 1991 to 18.6 in 12-13. This indicates that India is now less dependent on the other nations in terms of capital goods, which can be assumed as a good sign of growth if India starts producing its own good quality capital goods. The share of group of items like pearls, precious stone, textile yarn, cashew nuts, etc. has declined from 15.3 in 1991 to 9.5 in 12-13. This gives some idea about how India's pattern of imports has changed towards petroleum and crude oil products from others. Again, this has been indicated in figure 17, which shows the share of group of products in imports. The source is RBI handbook. We now come to consumer goods. The pie chart below indicates the share of commodities in the consumer goods imports by India in year 1991 and 2012-13. The share of cereal and cereal preparation has decreased from 18.3% in 1991 to just 0.6% in 12-13. The share of pulse import has also shrunk from 48.2 to 16.5. On the other hand, the share of edible oil in consumer goods has increased from 32.6 in 1991 to 79% in 12-13. The share of sugar import has also increased from 0.9 to 4%. This analysis shows how the pattern of imports has changed from cereal and pulses towards edible oil and sugar within the consumer goods. Again indicated in the pie charts of figure 18 and 19, which show the share of various commodities within the import of consumer goods imports, and the source is from the World Bank data. We then come to capital goods. Figure 20 to 21 represents again two pie charts showing the share of various commodities in capital goods imports for the year 1991 and 2012-13. The share of manufactured metals, electrical machinery, electrical goods, transport equipment has increased in the import of capital goods while comparing the 2 years 1991 and 2012-13, whereas the share of machine tools, machinery which is except electrical, computer goods, project goods has declined. This shows how the pattern of import within the capital goods has changed. So, this is all indicated in figures 20 to 21, which shows us the share of various commodities within the imports of capital goods imports. These are indicated by pie charts, and again the source is from the World Bank data. Then we come to India's pattern of trade in services. Now, first we look at pattern of export in services. Transportation service has the highest share in the exports of services by India, but its share has declined from 32.03% in 2000 to 17.19% in 2010. Share of travel has also decreased from 17.96% in 2000 to 12.86% in 2010. The pattern of export in services has changed since 2000. Now, India is looking beyond the top services like transportation, travel, finance, IT and insurance. All this has been indicated in figures 22 to 23 by pie charts, and the source of it is World Bank data. Pattern of imports and services. There are large number of foreign firms which are dealing in computers and IT services, which has built strong ties with India and the ease of doing business. Figure 24 to 25 shows that the share of computer and information services in the total import of services has increased from 28.29% in 2000 to 45.76% in 2010, and they have the highest share in the import of services done by India. After India's financial liberalization, many foreign banks and financial institutions have developed their branches in India, and many of them are looking forward to doing so. The share of import of financial services has increased since 2000, whereas travel and insurance service share in imports has declined in 2010 in comparison with the year 2000. These changes in the share of services give an idea about how the pattern of import in services has changed. So, it is indicated in figures 24 and 25 by two pie charts which indicate the various export and import of services. This has again been compiled from World Bank data. Summary: India's trade performance has increased after 2000, but the gap between export and import has also increased. Imports were greater than exports. Trade in oil and oil products has increased. Trade in services has enormously increased after 1990. Direction of India's trade in goods has changed towards OPEC and developing countries from OECD and Eastern European countries. USA share as commodity exporting partner is reduced, while UK and China's share has increased. In case of imports, USA shares has reduced and China has emerged as the biggest importer for India in the past few years. UK's share as the exporting partner of India in terms of services had declined. The share of petroleum products in India's export has increased, whereas the share of manufacturing and primary products has declined. Engineering goods has the highest share in export of manufacturing goods, while the share of textile goods has decreased. Petroleum product imports has increased, while the capital good imports has reduced. Consumer goods imports has increased and the credit goes to edible oil. Transportation service has the highest share in India's export in services, but its share is declining. Computer and information service has the highest share in India's import in service and its share has been rising.